This is a production of World Video Bible School. To God be the glory.
We welcome you once again to our survey of world religions. We've now come to lesson number 13. Lesson number 13 is entitled Animism, Primitive Paganism. Animism, Primitive Paganism. I've had opportunity to live in Africa for a number of years, and I've had opportunity to meet many people who have what is called animism as their religion. My very first introduction to animism came after I had been in the country of Zambia for about 1 week. I was teaching in a school called the Mapepe Bible School near Lusaka, Zambia. It was our practice in the school to take our students out for personal work 2 or 3 days a week following classes. And so the first day that I went out for personal work with the students, we went into a nearby village. The student had already set up a study with a man, and he asked me if I would conduct the study. The man said, "I have a question I want to ask you." He said, "If I become a Christian, I'm going to have difficulties when I return to my home village." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the people in my village are not Christians." Now, the people in this man's village were what we would term Animist. But he said, "The people in my village are not Christians, and sometimes when somebody has been sick, a sacrifice will be offered to the spirits of the ancestors. It may be a chicken, it may be a goat, but in order for that sacrifice to be acceptable to the ancestors, then everybody in the village must eat of it, must partake of it. Otherwise, it's considered no good." He said, "Now, if I become a Christian, can I continue to partake of sacrifices that have been offered to spirits?" Well, you see, this man had a real dilemma. If he became a Christian and went back to his village, if he did not partake of the sacrifice, then his fellow villagers would become very angry at him because their sacrifice would be no good. And so his becoming a village would actually upset the whole way of life in the village. This is the problem that many people in Africa face and in other parts of the world who live in animistic societies. And as a result of problems such as these, many of them face persecution or face being made as outcast if they accept the religion of Jesus Christ. But as we go into our study today, we want to ask the question, what is animism? We need to define what we're talking about. Animism comes from a Latin word, anima, and anima means breath of life, or sometimes it can be translated as soul or spirit. And particularly that last word, spirit, is the way that it's being used in our study today. Animism, then, is the belief that all objects, both animate and inanimate, have spirits. Now, by animate we mean living. By inanimate we mean non-living, such as rocks or such things as these. And so animism is the belief that all objects, both animals, living, and non-living, such as perhaps trees or dirt, have spirits in them. Trees, rocks, rivers, lakes, wild animals, and men all have spirits according to the animist, and these spirits may be either good or evil. They may be helpful or they may be harmful. An animist believes that everything that happens is controlled by spirits of one kind or another. He does not believe that sickness is caused by germs, by harmful bacteria, but he believes that sickness is caused by spirits that in some way have become angry or have been offended. He does not believe that death, as a rule, is caused by disease or sickness, but he believes that death, unless it's death that comes as a result of extreme old age, but any death, whether it's caused by sickness or an accident, was really caused by evil spirits. And these evil spirits may have been sent to cause the person to die by an enemy. And so this causes many problems in an animistic society. The whole basis of animism is fear. The whole basis of animism is fear. When something goes wrong, an animist does not say, well, what is the cause? But he says, who is the cause? Which spirit is responsible? At birth, at marriage, at planting, at harvest, at all the important events in life, the spirits must be given proper honor and reverence, and if they're not, then there's going to be problems for the individuals and maybe for a community as a whole. There is especially a great fear of the spirits of the dead among animists. If a man is believed to have possessed great power while he was alive, and there is a superstitious belief in animistic societies that some people, for one reason or another, are very powerful spiritually and can do wondrous things, but if a man is believed to have possessed great power while he was alive, an animist believes that that power will be even greater when the man is dead, and the man will still have the ability to influence the living back on the earth. If a man has died in an accident and his body has not been recovered, let's suppose he drowned while swimming and his body was swept away with the current, it is believed that that man, the spirit of that man who is dead, may come and try to take over a living body, that he may have a body, or the spirit may have a body to inhabit. And so people fear the spirits of those who have been killed accidentally. If a woman has died without any children, now in most animistic societies great emphasis is placed upon the family, and having children is very, very important, because one must have children to offer up sacrifices and offerings to him when he himself is dead. Those children must offer up spirits to keep his spirit alive and happy in the other world. And so it's a very sad thing, considered to be a sad thing, to die childless. Well, if a woman has died childless, it is feared that she's going to kidnap the soul of a living child. That is, her spirit may come and take the soul of a living child, so that at least she will not be childless in the spirit world. If a man has died unmarried, and in almost all animistic societies with great emphasis placed upon the home and upon having children, nearly everyone marries, and it's considered a very unusual thing, perhaps even a disgrace, if one does not marry. But if a man has died unmarried, it is feared that he is going to come back, or his spirit will come back and try to capture a wife from the land of the living. And so you see, there are many fears that the animist has to face every day. His fears are based on ignorance of the actual facts of the matter, and his fears are based upon these false animistic beliefs. Animism is very widespread in some parts of the world. In the parts of the world referred to as the developing nations, or sometimes referred to the third world countries, countries that are in Africa and in some parts of Asia and in the Pacific Islands, in these parts of the world, animism is still widely practiced today. But it is also commonly practiced among the Indian tribes of both North and South America. Native American religion, for example, would be classified as animism. Now, in our country of the United States of America, with the influence of the New Age movement and other things, there is a movement about to set forth Native American religion as if it were a very good religion and maybe superior in some ways to Christianity. But friends, that certainly is not the case. Native American religion is animism. It is really pagan superstition based upon ignorance. Many of us who have been influenced by Christianity for a long time and Our family roots in Christianity may go back for many generations, but many of us still have animistic beliefs that have been handed down from the past. For example, in America, and perhaps some European countries, there is a fear of black cats. For some reason, black cats are feared. It is believed that they cause bad luck. And if one is driving down the road in his car and a black cat crosses the road in front of him, because of old tales having been handed down through the years, he's going to have a little bit of fright and think, uh-oh, I'm going to have bad luck. Well, friends, a cat crossing in front of you may be more bad luck for the cat than for you. But it doesn't matter whether he's black or brown or white or yellow. He has no ability to cause luck for you, either good or bad. There are some people who will not walk under ladders. They fear that will cause bad luck. Now, it might not be good for you to walk under a ladder because somebody might be standing on it and he might drop something on you, but simply walking under a ladder has no power for either good or bad. Many people believe in luck, and so they carry objects. These are all from animism now, from the idea of animism. Now, I'm talking about people in the United States of America and countries of Western Europe and so on. Many people will carry a rabbit's foot in the pocket. The rabbit's foot is believed to cause good luck. It's believed to cause good luck. Many people will hunt for a little plant called a clover. Clover usually has a leaf that has 3 edges to it, but occasionally there will be one that has 4 edges. It's called a 4-leaf clover. And for some reason, a 4-leaf clover is considered to bring good luck. Again, many people will take an iron horseshoe and they will hang it above the door into their houses or into some of their outbuildings, and they believe that horseshoe brings good luck. Several years ago, a friend of mine who was a missionary in Zambia had come back to the United States for a visit, and he was visiting many places and speaking. He was invited to speak in the chapel service at a Christian college. He decided that he would talk to the people about some of the pagan superstitions that people held in Africa, and he was talking about that and how people believed that certain objects would bring good luck and certain objects would bring bad luck. The president of that college or university was sitting on the stage behind the speaker, and he was enjoying the speech very much and was laughing at the ignorance of these people in other lands who were so superstitious as to believe that certain objects could bring either good luck or bad luck. Then my friend stopped and he said, I would like every one of you to reach in his pocket and pull out his key ring, the ring on which he has his car keys and his house keys and so on, and hold it up. And the president of the university reached in his pocket and pulled it out and held it up. Of course, he was up front on the stage before everybody, and attached to that key ring was a rabbit's foot. And so the president of this university, a Christian, who was laughing at the paganism of other people, was actually guilty of some paganism himself. He had a relic from his animistic past that he was carrying on his key ring. He didn't say that he believed that it caused good luck, but I don't know why else he was carrying it, because rabbit's feet are not particularly attractive otherwise. Animism, I think, is a very clear example of what can happen to man when man gives up the understanding of God to follow his own desires. You remember in Romans chapter 1, the Apostle Paul, beginning in verse 18 and showing the need of the Gentiles for the gospel, points out that they could have known God and did know God through the things that were made, but they refused to have God in their knowledge, and therefore God gave them up. And as a result of God giving them up, then they became idolaters and fell for everything that was contrary to God. In the book of Acts chapter 14, we read of an event on Paul's first missionary journey, when he has come to Lystra to preach the gospel, and there he's preaching, and he has somewhat to say about the religions of man without God. In Acts chapter 14, verses 15 and 16, Paul says this, "Sirs, why do ye these things?" They were wanting to sacrifice to him and Barnabas as gods. "Why do ye these things? We are also men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea, and all things that are therein, who in time past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways." Well, animism is a way that many nations have walked in the past. God has given man that freedom to do so, but at the same time Paul goes on to mention that people could have known God because he left a witness in that the things that he did for man, such as sending them the rain and the sunshine and fruitful seasons. Let us now look at the animist view of God. The animist view of God. Many, perhaps most animists, believe in the existence of a supreme being. Now, despite the other beliefs they have, and we'll explore more of them a little bit later, but most of them believe in the existence of a supreme being. This supreme being is regarded as the creator of the world and everything in the world. However, in the thinking of the animist, the God who created the world, the supreme being, is not a personal God. He's not generally interested in the affairs of men here upon this earth, even though he is aware of what is happening on earth. And if he's going to be approached, and they don't usually approach him, but if they do, they don't usually approach him directly, but if they need to call upon him, they will approach him through the spirits of the ancestors who will act as the mediators. Now, it is a belief that the spirit of the ancestors are the ones who have the power and who are interested in what happens on earth and who can make things happen, who can cause harm or cause good. But if something happens that the ancestors cannot help, then and only then will the animist seek to go to the Supreme Being, but he will go through the mediation of the ancestors. Among the Nyanja or Chewa speaking tribes of Zambia and its neighboring country of Malawi, the high god is referred to as Mulungu. Mulungu. Now, Mulungu means the living one who puts all things together right. And that's a very good description, I think, of God, of the true God, the living one who puts all things together right. In the Bible that has been translated into Chinyanja, or Chichewa as the language is sometimes called, which is used by people there, God is referred to as Mulungu. That is the name of the Supreme Being. Among the Bemba people of Zambia and Zaire, and these people I'm talking about are people among whom I've lived and worked, but among the Bemba people of Zambia and Zaire, God is called Lesa. And Lesa means the nourisher. That is, the one who gives food, or the one who makes it possible for man to eat. Brother Apollo Nguila, an African Christian, a man who was also my teacher in the Chinyanja language, had this to say concerning the word for God in many of these Bantu languages of Central Africa. He said, "The grammar of the people forbids the use of plural gods. Whenever it is used, in the plural that is, it may mean or it means non-living. Moreover, the grammar confirms the idea of God as one, the great one who is the living one. This is the African idea of God." When we were in Africa, we did not have to persuade the people that there was but one God, that is, one supreme being. We did, however, have to teach them concerning the nature of that one God as revealed in the Bible, but our difficulty was in dealing with the animistic view that there were such things as ancestor spirits who affected things on this earth. But let's move on now and look at the animist view of ancestor spirits. The animist view of ancestor spirits. Animists generally worship the spirits of their ancestors. Now, when I use the word worship, I mean they bring offerings to them, and they may even utter prayers to them. And so if that isn't worship, I do not know what worship would be. but animists generally worship the spirit of their ancestors. Animists believe that man has a soul. Further, animists believe that man's soul survives the death of his body. Of course, in this they're quite correct. Man is more than body. Man has a soul or spirit, and when the body dies, the soul continues to live. But animists believe that the spirits of those who, their fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers and great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers and so on, the souls of those ancestors in the spirit world, in order for them to continue to exist and to be happy, must have needs fulfilled just as they did on this earth. They need food. They may need beer. They need weapons. They need tools. They may even need wives or slaves or servants for their well-being. Now, the only way that they can get these things that they need is by their descendants, their children on the earth, providing them. And so it is not uncommon for a person who has died to be buried and then items of food to be brought to the grave or other items that he had in life. It may be that these items will even be brought and broken, but left at the grave, believing that he's able to use them, that is, the spirit of the dead person, in the next world. One of the saddest sights that I've ever seen was to go into a cemetery in one of the copper belt towns of Zambia. In that cemetery there was a section devoted to the burial of children who had died in infancy. And as one walked through there on the graves of the children, one would see toys that were put on the graves. One might see a baby carriage or a pram, things such as these that were brought there and left for the use of the children or the babies in the next world. But the needs of those in the spirit world have to be supplied by relatives on the earth. When a person dies, he may be buried with personal items, including even food and drink. And it's very common in Central Africa for a person who has died, for the living relatives to brew beer and to bring large quantities of that and set it in pots on the grave, or even to pour it out at the foot of the grave, believing that it can be used by that spirit in the next life. Now, in times past, when a great chief would die of a tribe, it was a custom, and this is going back many years now, but it was a custom for his favorite wives, and he would be a polygamist and have many wives usually, and his servants to also be killed and to be buried with him, so that they could make the journey with him into the spirit world and continue to serve him there. I was living in Zambia in the 1960s, late 1960s, when the paramount chief of the Bemba tribe died. And there was a lot of material, articles carried in the newspaper about this great event, this great influential man leaving this earth. And some reporter, Zambian reporter, went back and dealt with a history of funerals of paramount chiefs. And he pointed out that some many years before the influence of Christianity and so on, when a paramount chief of the Bemba had died, about 8 of his wives were killed, and a number of other people, it seemed to me like it was several hundred people, were killed altogether in order to go into the next life with this man and to serve him there. It is believed that if ancestor spirits are neglected or displeased in any way, they may cause famine, or perhaps they may cause sickness, or they could cause other types of misfortune to come to their descendants here on the earth. When I was teaching in the Mapepe Bible School in Chilanga, Zambia, I had a student who was a very fine Christian man. He was married and he had 2 small children, I believe, and was one of the best students and best preachers that we had. But his second child, a son, was born, and from the time the boy was born, he cried. He would cry day and night. Something was wrong. He was sick. And this young man had taken his son to the hospital for help, and yet it didn't seem to help the baby. And so finally some of the older members of his family perhaps his parents or grandparents or other family elders, came to visit him. And they said, well, you named this boy Daniel. You gave the boy a Bible name, Daniel. But you should have named him after one of the ancestors. And because you did not do this, the ancestors are troubling this baby. Their spirits are troubling this baby, and they're making him sick and causing him to cry all the time. And my student asked me, what did I think about this? And I said, well, Brother Joe, I want to tell you something. I said, I'm amazed that the spirits bother only black people. Why don't the spirits bother us white folks? I said, we don't have any problems like that. Of course, there are some white folks who believe in spirits too nowadays, but back 25 years ago, we were not as ignorant as some of us have become today. But anyway, I said, why is it? I said, are the spirits racialistic? And he thought about that. What I was trying to do was to make him see that the whole idea of those who are dead influencing those who are living was just ridiculous. It cannot be done. Those who are dead have no influence. There's nothing they can do on this earth. When I was a little boy, I had a fear of going through graveyards, particularly at night. Because there was those old tales handed down of ghosts or spirits who might harm you and so on. And I believed this as a child. But I remember my grandmother told me, she said, you don't have to fear the dead. They can't hurt you. You'd better fear the living. And that's exactly right. There's no harm that the dead can bring to us. When we lived in the copper belt of Zambia, we had a very fine Christian man who had become a member of the church and was very active. He and his wife did not have children until they were getting a little bit old to have children, and then they had a boy and a girl, and then a third boy was born to them. And this third boy was always very sick and crying and never seemed to stop crying. And finally the mother-in-law told this Christian man, said, the reason your child is crying all the time is because there is an evil spirit in your house, and you must move out of your house. The man replied, no, I am a Christian. I do not believe that. Sadly, that child died, and we were very concerned. We thought with the death of the child that it might cause this Christian man to revert back to animism and to the belief in spirits, but he did not. He was a strong, faithful Christian man, and it did not hinder either his or his wife's faith in any way. When a person dies in an animistic society, special care is taken to see that not only is his body laid to rest, but also his spirit is laid to rest. Among some tribes in Africa, it is believed that a widow, the wife of a man who has died, the widow must have sexual relations with her late husband's oldest brother in order to ensure that the spirit of her dead husband does not try to come back and have a relationship with her, and she conceive as a result of that relationship and then give birth to some kind of monster. That is commonly believed and commonly practiced. Again, you can see that makes a great difficulty for those who are Christians but who live in a pagan society. Sometimes things are expected of them that as Christians they must not do. Some tribes have the practice of raising a big heap of stones over the grave of a person who has been newly buried, lest his body walk. That is, lest the body come out of the grave and move as a zombie among society and do harm to people. Among some animistic societies, corpses or dead bodies are carried out from the hut where they die feet first, and they're buried with the feet pointed away from the village. In case that body should come out of the grave and walk, it will not be directed toward the village, it will go in a different way, and therefore no harm will come to the people of the village. Even among some tribes, they will scatter thorns around the grave of a person who has been newly buried, and they will scatter the thorns on the path from the burial place back to the village. with the idea in mind that if that body should come out of the grave and walk, he will be harmed or hurt by the thorns. The thorns will hurt his bare feet, and therefore he will not be able to return back to the village. Well, these are just a few of many, many animistic ideas that are held. Let's look at some other animistic ideas that are commonly held, other animistic ideas. In some animistic societies, ancestors are represented in the form of what are called totems, T-O-T-E-M, totems. A totem may be an animal, a bird, a plant, or even an insect. A certain animal may be chosen, perhaps a fox, a lion, or maybe a bird will be chosen, or some kind of plant. And it is believed that in a clan of people, that this clan will be related in some way, or in some way united with that totem, with that bird or with that animal that is their totem. Now, the totem may not be killed or eaten except on very special occasions. Then many animistic tribes believe in a power that is sometimes called mana. Mana. Mana is believed to be a force which is inherent in persons or things. Mana is believed to be a force which is inherent in persons or things. That is, mana is believed to be a special supernatural power, and that power is found within certain objects. Now, the word mana itself is a Polynesian word that is used to describe this view that there is mysterious, supernatural power in certain objects. But even though the word is a Polynesian word, that same word is used that same idea is found among animistic people around the world. In the tribes in Africa, they may refer to Mpamvu, the word for power, or something such as this. It may be called by a different name, but it's the same idea. They believe that spirits, whether alive or dead, have mana, have this special power, and they have the ability to give it to living persons or to put it in objects such as a stone or maybe a stick or whatever it may be. If a river should flood its banks and destroy a village that was nearby, people would say, well, that was caused by mana. It was caused by power that was in the river, but it was bad mana. Mana can be either good or bad. It can be destructive or it may be helpful. An animist may seek to gain mana, to harness or control this power in order to have it to use for his own benefit, perhaps to use it against his enemies. But not only this, but animists also believe in what are called fetishes. Fetishes. A fetish is a material object which is believed to be occupied by a spirit and therefore has special power. A fetish is a material object which is believed to be occupied by a spirit and therefore has special power. And so I may have a rabbit's foot, if you please. We were talking earlier about the university president who carried a rabbit's foot on his keychain for good luck. The idea of a fetish is something such as this, which is supposed to bring good luck or bad luck. A black cat brings bad luck. A rabbit's foot brings good luck. A horseshoe may bring good luck. Sometimes fetishes are worn on a string around the neck. And it's not uncommon to see people in African countries, but also here in America, I see it from time to time, with these good luck charms worn around the neck or around the wrist, and it's believed that it will protect the one who wears it from evil spirits. I've seen infants in Africa, just small children, who will have a leather string around the neck and there'll be a small leather bag attached to that. Well, that is a fetish or a good luck charm which is designed to protect them from evil spirits. But you know, in countries where Christianity's had an influence, we may think, well, we're superior to that. We don't do such things as that, but you know, we may carry good luck charms, such as I've mentioned. Others may wear crosses around their neck, especially Roman Catholics do, and They have a superstitious belief that somehow this cross has power, it will help them, or it will protect them, and so they have made a fetish of the cross. Some have medals or little images of what it used to be called a saint, St. Christopher, and they will have those in their car, and when they go places they believe that St. Christopher, as they call him, will protect them from traffic accidents. I remember one time a family who lived in the same apartment house that we lived in. They were getting ready to go on a long journey, a journey of several days, and they had a St. Christopher. I don't really think they were Catholics, but they had this little image of the Catholic St. Christopher. I think the Catholics do not consider him a saint anymore, but they used to. But anyway, they wanted to know if I could bless that for them so that they would be safe on the journey. And I said, no, I don't do that. Of course, a Catholic priest would have. But these things are fetishist as well. Then there is the concept of taboo. Taboo means forbidden. The concept of taboo or forbidden is a large part of animism. Both objects and actions can be taboo, that is forbidden, because it's believed that harm will come to those who violate the taboo. In Central Africa, for example, there are many taboos associated with childbirth. Before a mother is born, before a child is born, the mother must not stand in a doorway. That's taboo. It is believed that if she does, harm will come to her and her baby. When an expectant mother is eating, it is considered taboo, that is forbidden, for her to eat all the food that has been given to her. She must leave some of it. If she does not, then she will suffer harm. After the child is born, the mother is forbidden to cook or handle food for at least 1 month. She cannot use salt or handle salt in any way as well. It is taboo. It is forbidden. When a child is a month old, both the baby and the mother must have the hair of their head completely cut off. If they do not, then harm can come to them, and so not doing that is taboo. There is in many societies the belief in the shaman, who is a witch doctor or medicine man. It is believed the shaman has great influence in animistic societies. The word shaman is a Siberian word that refers to this, but a shaman is one who's believed to be possessed of a strong spirit. He's an expert on magic. He's even able to go into the spirit world and communicate with the spirits of men long dead. He has the ability to drive evil spirits out of a person or to send an evil spirit upon a person. If a person is sick, he may go to the shaman, the witch doctor, who will find out why he's sick and try to give him healing for it. Well, all of these are superstitions. All of these are contrary to the Word of God. Animistic societies usually do not advance or prosper. They do not advance or prosper because believing that everything is caused by spirits, they reject true science, which is based upon the laws of nature created by God. Their whole existence is characterized by fear. But animists are often very receptive to the gospel of Jesus Christ because that gospel delivers them from their fears. There's much else we could say about animism, but time does not permit. But we want to invite you to study with us again in our next lesson as we look at Taoism, an ancient Chinese philosophy which grew into a religion.
This is a production of World Video Bible School. To God be the glory.